Out of all the lingering tech topics out there in the ether that I could break my silence on and throw in my 2 cents on, we need to talk about screen time. This is MultimediaJay Radio Style for Monday, December 9th, 2019. Let's start the show.
MultimediaJay Radio Style.
Of all the issues that I could podcast about and throw in my 2 cents about, there is perhaps no more obnoxiously lingering issue out there than that of all the preaching going on in the marketplace of ideas about young people and screen time. I can barely take 2 steps on the internet these days without seeing the latest article about how too much screen time is destroying our young people. Too much screen time is damaging our kids. Parents need to limit screen time. There needs to be parental controls. Smartphones are destroying people's ability to have social skills, blah, blah, blah. And every single time, it's the same thing over and over again. Demonizing technology in a situation where parents are responsible for their children. And that's why I want to talk about this whole witch hunt about screen time these days. Apparently, to some people out there, that innocuous little rectangular box thing called a smartphone is demon-possessed hellspawn of Satan, or something like that. Maybe I'm getting a little too melodramatic here, but the whole witch hunt about screen time is just absolutely ridiculous. And that's why I want to be the voice of reason here, once again, with a picture from Wikipedia, actually, which originally is from the Internet Archive. This has been cropped, and it's been cropped and it's been hammed up for the radio style backgrounds because it wasn't originally made for widescreen. But what we have here is a family sitting around the television watching TV circa 1958. And a very, 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 very sharp reminder to anybody who may want to jump on their soapbox about screen time, that screen time has been a thing going all the way back to the post-war era. Even the baby boomers have no leg to stand on if they preach about how young people spend too much time looking at screens, because screen time began with them. And I understand Generation X has a nasty reputation as being the couch generation, socially disengaged, and nowadays they're known for watching the most traditional television as opposed to watching video on the internet or on a smartphone or something like that. But I don't care if the screen that you are pointing your finger at is a smartphone, a television, or a freaking oscilloscope. The bottom line is, there's always been an alternate explanation for any problems out there that could be related to screen time. The things people are saying about smartphones nowadays are the same things people were saying about television when I was little. Don't watch too much TV. Don't sit too close to the television. Don't melt in front of the idiot box. And now in today's world, I do a quick search for screen time and what's in the news, and I see headlines like this. Too much screen time harms brain development. Explosive growth in screen use by toddlers, studies say. 2 studies lay the blame for childhood screen time at moms' feet. Screen-based media associated with structural differences in the brains of young children. Screen use tied to children's brain development. Screen time may be physically changing kids' brains. Study, toddlers using screens more than 1 hour a day are hurting their brains. Screen time linked to lower brain development in preschoolers, MRIs show. Too much screen time is terrible for your kids. Okay? How is this anything new and exciting? Yeah, we have smartphones and tablets nowadays, but once upon a time, we had television serving this role as well. A lot of the most recent hubbub about screen time is related to the early development years of someone's life when things related to language, literacy, and cognitive skills are coming together when someone's a little kid. That zonking out in front of screens too much impairs that. But the thing is, zonking out in front of screens too much has been a thing for over half a century now. You know, that picture is from the late 50s. And some people may say, well, you know, TVs weren't as mobile as smartphones are today. Yeah, but what exactly does that really do? Other than the time that you're out on the road. So you zonk out in front of your TV at home a little too much, mom yells at you, and you're like, oh, okay, I'll go do something else. You go over to your friend's house and watch TV there until their mom gets concerned, whatever. So this is the thing. The antidote to all of this, going all the way back to the times like what's depicted in this picture here, is parenting. Somewhere along the line, we lost track of this idea that parents can actually raise their children. And then there are some people out there, unfortunately, that have taken it a step further. And this is why I always take all of this hubbub about screen time, no matter what it is, whether it was television or even smartphones nowadays. The reason why I always take this stuff with a grain of salt is because I've seen this technology abused by bad parents who can't handle their own kids. This is the cute little detail that I never hear about in any of these articles that's demonizing technology. The way this technology is abused by having anything that kids could be remotely interested in for hours at a time turned into an electronic babysitter. Can't handle your own kids? Park them in front of the television. Park them in front of the video games. Park them in front of the computer. And nowadays, park them in front of a tablet or park them in front of a smartphone. The general idea driving this is always the same. You have a parent that doesn't actually want to be a parent for whatever reason. And so they end up with kids zonked out in front of screens too much, having these problems. But the root cause of it goes all the way back to parents not getting assertive with how they raise their kids. Now, some folks out there may cite the social awkwardness that Gen Z is known for as they've entered the workforce as evidence that too much screen time can damage people's ability to be social with others. But I wouldn't use Gen Z as the example. Don't forget, we're talking about people who may have had their childhood or their adolescence wrecked by the Great Recession. So if the only good thing you got to have during those times was your smartphone, of course you may have issues down the road with being socially awkward. I've been seeing it even with the 9-to-5ers as more young people have come in, and it's nice to see young people not always be super rebellious all the time. But in a way, you gotta feel sorry for these people because they're now going to live their lives in a world where literally everybody else around them can't relate to them because there's a chance that literally everybody else had a happier childhood than they did. What I would do is see how young people after the Great Recession grow up with technology being around them all the time before declaring that it's this big awful thing. But that's going to require young people who are too young to remember the Great Recession, and I don't know if we're there yet. It'll probably take another 5 to 10 years, but that's when we'll have our real answer on the whole, if you grew up with smartphones and tablets, is it possible for you to still be functional as an adult without being socially impaired by too much screen time? Something else that I should probably mention as someone who grew up with a lot of access to screen time is that, as the Xbox Live generation is teaching us, screen time and socialization do not have to be either or. They can always be both and. And this applied during the offline era before internet gaming became what it is today. I can tell you that, and I've probably said this before at some point on this channel, that I was one of those, because I'm an AV guy, I'm a multimedia nerd and whatnot, I was a really, really easy kid to babysit when I was growing up if you had a Nintendo. And I very vividly remember there was one sitter even whose kids brought that up. But the better sitters I had practiced assertive parenting. So they set boundaries, and most importantly, they kept socialization as part of the experience, even if we were all playing a bunch of video games after school before starting our homework. A lot of the sitters I had were stay-at-home moms who had 1 or 2 or more kids. Many times there were other people playing video games, and you had to keep the social aspect going with taking turns on the Nintendo, playing 2-player, who's player 1, who's player 2, working together even if you're just playing Contra together or something along those lines. Then, of course, they could also pull the plug on screen time altogether and say, okay, kids, go play outside. It's a nice day. I don't want you sitting in front of the Nintendo when it's nice and sunny out. But again, assertive parenting. There was no, I don't want to deal with my kids. Kids, shut up and just watch TV. Just watch TV. Just sit there and shut up and watch TV. I should probably also mention that this mindset of, I don't want to deal with my kids, let's search for some kind of way to keep them occupied, is something I've seen with non-electronic stuff as well. I see this even to this day. Every time I go to Walmart, and there's somebody wandering around Walmart not really buying much of anything, while their kids just run all over the place. And you know when you see them, because they half-heartedly say, stay with mommy, hey, over here, get over here, stay. I have a lot more respect for the parents that actually get upset at their kids in the middle of Walmart for misbehaving, because I know at least they understand how they're coming across to others. But this whole people of Walmart thing where they're like, get over here, please come back, please get over here, please stay with mommy, please do this, please do that. Give me a break. And I guess the final question we should ask with someone who grows up in a situation like that is, how do we move them forward with them not taking it personally the rest of their lives that they had parents who did this to them? That it didn't take something like a financial crisis in the case of Gen Z for this kind of garbage parenting to mar someone's early experience in life. But that's a completely different discussion. Bottom line, if we think we're raising a generation of idiots by too much screen time, well, the same was said regarding television once upon a time as well. And the antidote has always been the same. Assertive, responsible parenting. Setting boundaries, not negotiating with 2-year-olds who don't understand why their developing brain could be messed up by too much time with screens and not enough time learning to deal with the people that they will be encountering all throughout their lives. But most importantly, screen time is something that has been around for decades, as this picture so sharply reminds us. Decades. We absolutely cannot pretend that screen time is this new, terrible thing, because that is absolutely not the case. It's an old problem with old solutions. Or should I say even older solutions? Parents assertively being parents. Screen technology, no matter what the generation, follows the same rules as other forms of technology as well. Technology is inherently neutral. What matters is how we use it. And how parents use technology when it comes to raising their kids is part of that. This is MultimediaJay Radio Style. Don't touch that dial.